If you've shown any interest in an RTS game before, then your search engine or newsfeed of choice have most likely bombarded you with headlines such as Age of Empires 4 may possibly be released this year. Maybe. Probably. Let's make a video about it anyway. Ever since. In this video, we will answer one simple question. Should you care? We'll be looking at what kickstarted the golden age of RTS, the subsequent decline, and analysing where we are now, ending with a look through the lessons we've learned from the past to help you come to a conclusion. If you love all things RTS, then this is the channel for you. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing. Now let's get on with the video. If you're a big Age of Empires fan, the answer to this question is obvious. But what if you're an RTS fan who isn't that bothered about Age of Empires? Why would you care about Age 4? I find myself in that position. Sure, Age of Empires is fun. I do play it occasionally and enjoy it. But I prefer to play other RTS games, like Rise of Nations. However, something is telling me Age of Empires 4 is important. Not just for the series itself, but for the whole genre. Is it not worth supporting a game for the greater good of RTS? So how do we answer these questions? First, we need to understand how we got to the position we're in the first place. And to do that, we must look back at how the RTS genre became responsible for some of the best games ever made. For the purposes of this video, I'll leave the origins of the genre and skip straight to the golden age of RTS. Exactly when that was is open to debate, but when it started is easier to pinpoint. Both Command & Conquer and Warcraft 2 were released in 1995 and improved upon their previous installments. They were among the top games of that year and subsequent years in both critical reviews and raw sales numbers. Between them, these games defined what all future RTS games would look and feel like. The arms race between Westwood Studios and Blizzard brought a lot of investment and innovation into the genre. They proved these games can be profitable, which ultimately resulted in dozens of high-quality RTS games being released by many studios with serious financial backing over the coming decade and beyond. To me, this heralded the beginning of the golden age. What do we learn from this? Two big studios duking it out to make the best game. That fierce competition was great for the genre and enabled RTS to be the best of the best. Let's revisit that lesson later. Defining how long the golden age lasted and when it ended is more open to opinion, but for me it started with Command & Conquer Red Alert in 1996, swiftly followed by the original Age of Empires in 1997. Over the years I became obsessed with many RTS games. To give you an idea of how long I think the golden age lasted, here are the key games that come to mind whilst my Red Alert and Age of Empires obsession continued. Rise of Nations, my one true love, which released in 2003. Battle for Middle-earth and the Battle for Middle-earth 2, which released in 2004 and 2006 respectively, was simply stunning. Of course I can't forget Company of Heroes, which also released in 2006, and gave me one of the best single-player RTS experiences I can remember. So for me, this 10-year period saw the release of many games that distracted me from schoolwork for hours on end. I couldn't possibly place the end of the golden age before 2006, but how long it truly lasted for is difficult to say. I can hear you all shouting your opinions now, and that's okay. I'm not here to say I'm right, just that those are the games that really caught my imagination, and all owe their success, in part, to the Command & Conquer vs Warcraft rivalry. I'll summarise how this helps to answer our question in a minute, but I also remember vividly when Supreme Commander was released in 2007 thinking, there is not a chance in hell my family PC can run that game. I had to watch videos instead. Sad times. So what do we learn from the rise and fall of RTS? And how does that help us decide whether to care about Age of Empires 4? Here is my takeaway from this journey. We know RTS has declined, and it would be good for all of us if this decline was reversed, offering us new games that have received genuine investment and passion. A lesson from the past is that a great rivalry between two big developers is what kickstarted the golden age of RTS. So it seems logical that another great rivalry is exactly what we need to reverse the downward trend we've seen over the past 10 years. Remember this point, because I'll be revisiting it later. Another point that is slightly separate to all this is the technology. Technology has come a long way in the last 10 years. Perhaps now it has finally reached a point where developers can implement new ideas which will take RTS to the next level. A level that simply wasn't possible 10 years ago. Looking back at the glory days is a good dose of nostalgia, but looking at where we are now is more important. Finding a decent RTS game that has been released in recent years is difficult. It doesn't help that many new games are given the RTS label, but they're not what I would consider RTS. However, Iron Harvest and They Are Billions are two names that come to mind. Iron Harvest was released at the beginning of 2020 and has seen reasonable success and ratings, but the general opinion appears to be lackluster. But of course there are fans of the game. It's hardly reinvigorated the RTS genre. The same could be said about They Are Billions, which I've played for several hours myself. It just got a bit too repetitive. Looking at the Steam player count for both games shows that they've not set the world alight. They gave it a good go, but have done little to change the overall state of RTS. There are, of course, many indie developers looking to make it big on the RTS scene, and I have a huge amount of respect for them. I wouldn't have a clue where to start developing a game, and the amount of time and dedication required to create one must be insane. But again, I don't think I'm being unfair by saying that despite the best efforts of the indie scene, the RTS genre is still away from seeing a real resurgence. So, is that it? Do we just give up? No. No, we do not. Because I could not make this video without mentioning StarCraft 2, Age of Empires 2, and Company of Heroes 2. The older crew are what we still play. The numbers don't lie. A lot of people still play these games. Not enough for the RTS genre to be considered mainstream again, but you cannot deny the sheer number of people still playing these games. And who can blame them? The games are fantastic, all coming from the real pinnacle of RTS. But that's the thing. These are all old games, which is fine. However, what we really need is something new. And the fact that these guys have by far the largest player base, but are all old games, is both testament to how good the games are, but also how badly we are lacking new RTS games. Then finally, we have the definitive editions, which have been the most recent cause for excitement. Several older RTS games have received the definitive edition treatment in recent years, but Age of Empires is certainly leading the way. With all three of the historic games receiving some love, and as previously mentioned, Age 2 has been doing well. Age 3 seems to be unloved, which I don't understand. It's a great game, but I've seen many with genuine hate for what this game tried to do. Poor Age 3. It's like a puppy that, for some mad reason, nobody wants to love. The pandemic has led to an increase in gaming more generally, and many of the comments on my videos are from those who are returning to RTS after a long hiatus. All of this leads to good conditions for releasing a new RTS. Many of the players are hungry for it. It's just the likes of Iron Harvest haven't quite captured the imaginations of enough players to signal a real resurgence in RTS. But our look at the Golden Age shows Age of Empires certainly has the pedigree. So if we can agree the timing is right, and Age of Empires is the right franchise for the job, I'm starting to think I should support this game, for the good of RTS as a whole. But pedigree alone is not enough. So let's take a look at who is making the current game, to see how likely they are to balls it up. The first three Age of Empires games were created by Ensemble Studios, who also created Halo Wars. But this studio was closed down in 2009 after the release of Age of Empires 3. The definitive edition versions of the first three games have been created by an interesting mix of studios under Microsoft. However, Age of Empires 4 is being made by Relic Entertainment, a Canadian real-time strategy specialist, responsible for no less than the Homeworld franchise, along with Company of Heroes and Dawn of War. Yeah, all big RTS games. The studio itself does not have to justify why it was chosen for Age of Empires 4. Their record speaks for itself. But a studio is only as good as the people that are currently working on the game. Employees come and go, so are those currently at Relic up to the task? Looking through the team roster, there are certainly some big names in there. Adam Isgreen, and Zach Schlappy, to name but a few. Schlappy. Many with previous experience from big RTS titles such as Company of Heroes 2, among others. This looks like a solid team, with years of experience, which gives me confidence the development is in safe hands. Although Relic aren't the same team that are working on the definitive editions of the older games, there does seem to be a lot of cross-team collaboration and support when it comes to Age 4. You'd be forgiven for being concerned that none of the team that worked on the previous games are involved in Age 4. But that depends on your perspective. New blood can be a good thing, particularly for what is effectively a reboot. And you have to bear in mind that the definitive editions of the previous three games have been relatively successful, so the team have a constant stream of data from these games that can help them design Age 4. Many developers could only dream of such a luxury. So let's bring this all together and finally answer this question. The evidence suggests the genre is in desperate need of a new game that ultimately is profitable. A game that can provide proof that an RTS game can be worth the time and money it takes to develop it. This could kickstart further investment into the genre. Analysing what led to the previous Golden Age, the Westwood vs Blizzard rivalry was key, laying the foundations for investment that produced some of the best games ever made. Perhaps another Westwood vs Blizzard style rivalry will herald a new beginning for RTS. And Age 4 could be one side of that new rivalry. We just need someone else to step up. But for that to happen, someone needs to take the plunge first. What it comes down to is money. There aren't many games as well placed as Age of Empires to make this happen. It has the history, it has the current player base, and the personnel within the development team. I understand that RTS fans are hesitant. A lot could go wrong. Will this game simply be a copy-paste of Age of Empires 2? In which case, what's the point? Will they be bold and make several changes that go a bit too far, making the Age of Empires 2 community look at this in the same way as Age of Empires 3? Just a bit too different. Will they try so hard to make it an esports game that they ruin the core game itself? Will old RTS veterans such as myself, who aren't that bothered by Age of Empires, be drawn in by what the game has to offer? Indeed, will it draw in a newer generation who have not experienced the joys of RTS at all? All of these things would be needed to kickstart another golden age of RTS, but perhaps that's a bit too much to hope for. I'd settle for a silver age. Particularly as my hair's starting to grey, it would seem more appropriate. All things considered, here is my personal opinion. I will download and play this game, even if I think the gameplay looks a bit underwhelming, because ultimately we need to support this genre by opening our wallets. Other developers will be watching the release of Age of Empires 4 very closely to see if they should get in on the action and give the green light to their own RTS games. They will surely look at player numbers and profitability. Only time will tell. We saw more gameplay in a recent YouTube video, which looks promising, if not a bit underwhelming at times, but I will not judge until I've played it. To be fair, I was excited to see archers on walls defending the keep. I would be more than happy building wall upon wall, my opponent's army slamming against them time and again as I rain arrows down upon them. What I lack in skill, I make up for in patience. I have won many games by playing such tedious tactics that my opponent quits through boredom. I'd be the world champion of victory via boredom, because I have no shame. The game is due to be released in fall 2021, but there's no rush, Relic. I've waited a long time. I can wait 6 months more, if that's what you need to polish the game. Thank you for sticking with me through this rambling journey. I'm simply an old-school RTS fan who is full of nostalgia and longing for the past. Is it too much to ask for Rise of Nations 2? Probably. But if Age 4 turns out to be a great success, perhaps we'll be one step closer to seeing Ron 2. If you're an RTS fan, let me know what you think. I know it's easy to watch a video and not leave a comment, but I really want to hear what your opinion is on this game. Are you bursting with anticipation? Could you not care less? Have I persuaded you to take a closer look? If so, perhaps you'd consider subscribing to join me on this RTS journey. I've been Twiglets too. Thank you for listening.